Hello, everyone. It is Friday. It is incredibly hot, and it is that time of the week again. The Get Hired Live here on LinkedIn. We are talking all things about how to get hired, all the difficulties that a lot of people are trying to go through when they're searching for jobs. It's not the easiest market out there. It's probably not helped by the fact that it is hotter than the sun in most places, especially around the UK. Foxy, always good to see you. I hope it's not too blisteringly hot where you are. As ever, introduce yourselves and say how you're doing, but also probably would be really interesting today. Find out what temperature is it and everywhere. Where I am, up in the Yorkshire Dales, it is pretty hot up here. It's very humid. But I hate to be the bearer of good news or bad news, but on Sunday it's going to be down to 19 degrees. So we're going back to normal and have that relief. I don't know whether anyone else does. I think most of Europe is still carrying on for quite some time to come. But hey, you know, that's just the way it is. And when it comes down to a little bit of cool relief, then obviously coming to the Get Hired Live is the place to go in order to get a little bit more relief from some of the heat of the day out there. It is absolutely insane, Foxy, but well, he's got air conditioning. Well, he would do. He absolutely would do. We should have really invested in that earlier than we should have done. But, you know, I think once you've got air conditioning, everything is fine. Everything is happy. Everything goes well. There's never a problem from that point of view. And with that in mind, what we're going to be talking about today is specifically about creating your story, to be able to create that visibility. What is there about it in the job market? What is preventing people from being found out there, and what you have to do? And part of that is what we talk about all the time, which is what we need to do on LinkedIn and indeed other social media channels once you get used to it. But let's just concentrate on LinkedIn at one thing at one time, is how you can put yourself out there so that you can get the visibility that is driving traffic to your profile, where you have that opportunity to be able to demonstrate what your skills are, what value you bring to an organization, what you can do, what problems you can solve. And bear in mind, the traditional way that you've probably done that over all of these years has always been about, I get a CV, I apply for a job, and there I go. And that's what I do. And you are getting visibility for effectively one person. And that one person is the recruiter who's going to be going through everything on that for you and assessing whether or not that CV fits for the job that it is that you want to be applying for and you want to be doing. The difficulty with that, of course, is that recruiter suddenly becomes king or queen for the day as to whether or not you go forward to the next level as well. So that's why we're going to be looking today is, what are the challenges if all you're doing is application only, and what you can do to try and get beyond that. I can see, look, some more people coming in through here. Oh, look, some of the temperatures we've got here. Foxy, 29. Had to organise 3 storage units yesterday. I saw that post about that you put that up as well. That's never fun. Never good. Hlubi, hello. Good to see you from South Africa, from always sunny South Africa. Well, most of the time it's sunny South Africa. I hope it's going well for you down there as well. Jenny, great to see you as well. Sunny Surrey, 34 degrees. Oh my goodness, 30 inside as well. That's not good. You probably can't hear it, but like right to my side here, I've got a really good fan that's just blowing that. That's why I'm in a slightly different location today. I've effectively, like everybody, I've just found the coolest place in the house to be able to work from and to be able to go out and do the LinkedIn Live today. I think it's important to keep going and make sure that you keep doing that. David, always good to see you as well. Hope you are well. Hope you are also managing to stay cool where you are as well. LinkedIn user as well. Hello, everybody. Hello to you as well. Always good to see, especially people from all around the world, because the same issues that we have in the UK that we have over in Europe is always the same in terms of looking for a job, whether you are in the UK, in the US, in South Africa, in Australia, in anywhere around the world. It's still the same challenges. And that same real problem is about, if you are going to be applying for a role and you're going to have the recruiter making those decisions for you. I wanted to highlight a little bit today. I don't know whether you saw, I posted up and reposted a post that I saw this week. It was a couple of days ago. And essentially what it was a recruiter who had put up a post, and it was quite interesting for it. And I don't know whether you've seen it. If you haven't, you can go onto my profile. You'll be able to see a couple of days ago on it. But I'm going to read out to you what it is that this person posted. And what it does is it really sets the scene as to what the issues are with the recruitment industry as a whole, but also if all you're doing is just applying directly only. This is the problem that you can have. This is what the post actually said. I once declined to interview a candidate who sent me the best CV I ever received. Just listen to that for 1 second. They declined to interview the person who had the very best that somebody had. That in itself should always worry about it. I'm actually going to put it here in the comments, and then I think it'll probably be quite interesting that we could probably put that up here as well. So I'm going to show it here. I once declined to interview a candidate who sent me the best CV I'd ever received. 30 years, 4 continents, 3 business exits. Genuinely exceptional. His LinkedIn said executive professional. I keep going through this. Open to opportunities. And this is what they went on to write. Bear in mind, this is what they put. Open to opportunities. That message sends, I'll take anything. At director level, the market doesn't want someone who'll take anything. It wants someone who knows exactly where they create the most value and who isn't afraid to say so. Executives with standards have positioning. Executives with positioning have proven they know their worth. Open to opportunities is the professional equivalent of waving a white flag. What does your profile say? So let's just reflect on that for 1 minute. This person who was the perfect CV applied for a role, and the recruiter who saw that recognized they were the best CV, the best candidate they had ever seen in their professional career, and they still declined to interview them over one thing. They went onto their LinkedIn profile, saw open to opportunities, and for whatever reason, they decided that was a red flag for them. They couldn't do it. They didn't want to see them. There are so many issues with that, but the first thing that I wanted to highlight was if all of you do is just applying for jobs, all that you're doing is that, you are at the mercy of one person, that recruiter. And if that recruiter has some really strange biases, which I'm afraid to say there are a few out there that have, not all, I'm glad to say, most of them in my profession are pretty professional, pretty good, and they don't have those kind of biases. But there are some that do. And for whatever reason, they decided, having gone straight onto that, that's why they decided to reject it. Absolutely foxy. Frankly, just a stupid attitude. I absolutely agree with that as well. I do not understand why somebody would just do that from that point of view. It makes no real sense whatsoever. But what it also demonstrates is this. What we've talked about over the last year is the fact that the first thing that recruiters end up doing is when you send your CV in and you apply to a job, they'll go onto LinkedIn and they'll look at your profile. They'll start trying to get more information about you because LinkedIn and your presence on LinkedIn has become far more important than however good your CV can be. So you can pretty up your CV, do lots of different things and put everything like this person did, the best CV they'd ever seen. And instead of just looking at that, they'll go straight onto the LinkedIn profile and then make decisions based on that one. Now, the decision was wrong, obviously, that discriminating against an individual simply because they put that they're open to opportunities at some place within that clearly makes no sense at all. But that's the state of the market. That is what's happening. And that is why it's so important to look at things differently. Do not still have a job search based on the way that you approached a job search that was happening, that was working quite successfully 10, 15, 20 years ago, because the market has changed dramatically. And what that means is that basically all recruiters, all talent acquisition, what they'll end up doing is pushing onto LinkedIn, reviewing in more depth. Hiring managers, when they've got the CV to review, will go onto LinkedIn, have a look at it, see what else you're putting there. And that's why it's so important to do that. So there are two aspects to it. from that point of view. Making sure that you've got the right messaging that you have there on your LinkedIn profile, and also recognizing that an application only strategy isn't going to work. And that's why we wanted to talk about visibility today. It's really, really important to try and talk about you and your authenticity, the value that you bring. What are the skill sets that you have? Because there are far too many people out there that are gone missing in the job market, that we can see even from that example. You have somebody who is the most qualified candidate that a recruiter's ever seen, and they've been ghosted. They're not going to be spoken to. They're not going to hear back. They might get some kind of rejection at some point. And that's when you get these examples of where everybody talks about, where they come back and say, I don't understand it. I've applied for this job. I'm the most qualified for it. I tick the box in everything in the job description. Why haven't I heard back? And there are lots and lots of reasons for it. Part of it is the fact that there are hundreds, if not sometimes thousands, of applicants for every single role. But also it can be that recruiters are making decisions to filter you out because there are so many people. They're having to find strange and weird ways of trying to filter people out. And unfortunately, they have their systems set up so badly, or they just don't have a professional attitude, that you end up not getting communicated with. You don't even get a rejection letter, and it just becomes more and more stressful, and that all piles up there. You might well have years of experience. Your CV is just sounding like everybody else's. They're not going to see any difference for it, and they don't have. It's about trying to create that real value. And if your LinkedIn profile doesn't show that value, if you're applying for a role and the recruiter is going on there to do that, then again, you're missing out. So that's why it's so important to make sure that you, first of all, optimize your LinkedIn profile, make sure that you've got that reflects you. And that's something I really wanted to talk about today, was about that area of what it is. Andrew, great to see you. Why are employers increasingly requiring 4 or 5 interview stages for a single role, particularly within the IT industry? While I understand the importance of assessing skills, cultural fit, and stakeholder alignment, it feels as though recruitment processes have become significantly longer and more complex. Is this genuinely leading to better hiring decisions, or is it creating candidate fatigue and causing businesses to lose strong talent during the process? Andrew, I think it's a really, really good point, because it is happening a lot. And what tends to happen is the reason why organizations can tend to do that, and why they end up having far more interview stages than normal, it's most likely because, first of all, the market is tough. It's a tough, not just in terms of job search, but tough in macroeconomic terms. It's not an easy market out there. There's lots of different changes. There's AI that's affecting different things. And what it tends to do with a lot of organizations, it means that they become a little bit more risk averse. And that filters down in an organization. So when you're ending up interviewing people, what an awful lot of them will doing, oh, I need to see a few more candidates. I need to see more people to compare. They don't want to make a wrong decision. It's not about not making it, they don't want to make a wrong one. Now that perception is incorrect. It's fine to do your due diligence and do what you need to do. A strong talent acquisition team should be advising and influencing that hiring team and showing them the way of, what are you trying to achieve? If you're having 4 different interview processes, what are you trying to look? If you're having, I've seen some that have gone on into double digits in terms of interview processes from various different organizations that have done that. And it's then saying, well, what are you trying to do? So you've got to have a bit where you're assessing skill sets, you're assessing the fit, whether it's a leadership position, a technical position, etc. So absolutely you can do all of that. But yes, there has to be a process that you can do that fairly well maintained in a shorter space of time. So I agree with you. There is a little bit more of that taking place, and that tends to be just simply because they're trying to mitigate their risk. I think it's gone too far one way. So it's important for the recruiters and the talent acquisition teams to advise hiring managers and interviewing teams correctly to make sure that they can help them make that decision. I can tell you in 25 odd years that I've been doing active recruiting and doing all of that, that bit hasn't changed. In the 30 odd years ago, I was in interviewing processes where we still had hiring managers there that would turn around and say, yeah, I just need lots and lots of candidates. I want to have a good comparison. You know, I've got, what about this candidate we've just interviewed? Yeah, perfect fit, perfect this, perfect that, but can I have another one just in case? So there's always that. People struggle sometimes to make decisions. What you have to do is to work effectively with them to try and help them come to those decisions as well. And that's why as a candidate, it's really important to make sure that you maintain those relationships, not just with the business, but also with the recruiter, whether they're working for the company in-house or whether they're an external agency as well. David, I had a LinkedIn message earlier in the week saying my CV had been reviewed. I didn't recognize the company name, so I checked it. It was a role I applied for. I'm sorry to laugh. Oh my goodness. On the 3rd of November, 2025. They have only just reviewed my CV. Surely the role cannot be vacant some 8 months later. David, honestly, I don't even know what to say about that. It's just incredible to me that these things happen. It could be worse. I was actually in touch with somebody who I work with. I worked for a year over in the Caribbean. I was based in the Cayman Islands, and I was managing recruitment across the Caribbean and Latin America for cable and wireless. And one of the people we had there, who I worked with, they then went off and applied for a job somewhere else after I'd left. And anyway, they were mentioning to me a few months ago that they said the same as you, David. They got a message, but it was actually a rejection message, and just couldn't think for the likes of them what job that was for. They thought, I've not applied for a job for a couple of years, but I don't recognize this company, who it was. And he went through that, and it just like bugged him, and then found out it was a job that he'd applied for nearly 10 years earlier. And so it had taken them 10 years to reject him. So who knows what was happening with that one. I just don't really understand it. Foxy, I got rejected a few weeks for a role I applied for in 2023. It's, oh my goodness, it's just absolutely amazing. You know, in some respects, I'm very proud to be working in talent, in recruiting, in helping people find amazing jobs. But there are some things that take place you can only laugh about, but because otherwise you'd be crying. That you just look and just hold your head in your hands and think, why on earth are these things happening? It is for a number of reasons. It's because they've not. One of it is they've not set up their systems correctly. So many companies do not set up their ATSs, which is the applicant tracking systems, basically the databases that hold your CVs. They all can have automated emails, automated processes to help and aid the recruiter and to give the candidate the very best candidate experience. For whatever reason, so many companies do not set them up correctly, do not push through with getting that information. And what can often happen is you'll apply for a role, you stay on there for ages and ages and ages, and then eventually they'll either purge it out because of GDPR in the European area. So they're having to purge out your data, which might have happened for you, Foxy. And the way they do that is they say, we'll send a message and that's it. And the message just makes them look even more ridiculous than the first time. So I'm sorry you're really seeing all of that. But hey, wow, you know, exactly, Jenny. I think that's a really good idea. You should have asked them for some constructive feedback. I think that would be a fantastic thing to send that back for it as well. And Andrew, I applied for a role this morning and within an hour received a message saying, thank you for interviewing. Oh dear. I'm assuming you didn't actually interview, you just applied. Followed by, unfortunately, we will not be progressing your application further. I'm slightly confused how I could apparently be thanked for interviewing when I only just submitted my application. It does make you wonder how much time is actually being spent reviewing applications, whether some decisions are being made automatically before candidates even have a genuine opportunity. They won't be making it. So the one thing that you can be confident about, and I think it's important to mention, you're not going to be automatically rejected. So they're not going to set up systems to have AI to screen your CV and then automatically reject you. There are absolutely systems on all of these ATSs that are getting more and more adopted. Lots of AI systems there that can help recruiters in terms of screening. But they won't auto reject. That's got to still be a human element. Within the EU, it's a legal requirement because of the EU AI Act, which is coming into force that will make sure that you can't have a human do that. The UK does that as more of a as a best practice, so it really won't happen from that side again as well. So look, absolutely, these things will happen. It's super frustrating. Clearly what's happened for you, Andrew, in that particular instance, is what actually has taken place is perhaps the recruiter's just gone through that and has probably pressed the button to reject you and send out a communication and has clicked the wrong one. So they've clicked the rejection message that is actually saying and set up for if somebody has been interviewed. So that it's probably just a human error. They will all screen through it. And the difficulty that you're going to have, Andrew, and indeed everyone, with just doing application only, is that you're sending lots and lots in. There are plenty of people who are applying for these roles. It is a bit of a lottery. From a recruiter perspective, they only need one person for the role. In truth, you're probably going to want to have 3, 4 people who the business will actually interview. In order to get 3 or 4 people, then the talent acquisition team or the recruiter will probably want to interview maybe a dozen tops, maybe a dozen people that they'll probably look through to filter and then present the top 6 to the business, and they'll filter through to their top 3. If you have hundreds of applications, sometimes thousands of applications, then the chances of you even being selected just for a phone call, for an initial interview with the recruiter, is pretty low. And that's why it's so important to create the visibility. And that's what we've got to really work on here today. Hello, LinkedIn user. Does the LinkedIn profile need to mirror a CV, or do we leave more information in the LinkedIn profile? Thinking of ageism issues, I have just chopped several years from my CV and added those as a career section without dates, leaving only the past 15 years. Okay, look, there's a lot to unpackage here. So let me go through these questions that you've put in there as we go along. So first of all, the LinkedIn profile, does it need to mirror the CV? No, it doesn't. Clearly, if you have things that are in your CV as the job that you've just done, and it's completely different to the one that you've got in your LinkedIn, clearly there's going to be an issue. But your LinkedIn is not your online CV. So be clear about that. Don't fall into that trap of thinking my LinkedIn profile is my online CV. That was something that was told to everybody 20 odd years ago, 15 years ago about LinkedIn. It isn't the case. LinkedIn, your LinkedIn profile is your landing page. Think of it like that. That is your shop window. That is your opportunity for people to go there and view who you are so that you can demonstrate your value, who you are, the skills that you've got, where you're going, the problems you solve. That's what people want to see when they go onto that. That's what you are effectively selling, is you. Don't treat it just as a CV. Don't list it like in the same way. You have to show it slightly differently. And that's why it's really important to make sure it's fully optimized. You've got a great headline talking about who you are, where you're going, the problems you solve, the value you bring, the skills you've got. There are lots of sections within that. You need to work within that. You need to make sure you've got some really good referrals, some really good recommendations. You need to make sure that the roles that you've done, don't just list in terms of I did X, Y, and Z. No, show what the value was, the problems that you solved in those companies. Obviously, you're not going to give away confidential information, but you'll be able to talk about delivering a project on time, on onboarding X amount of new business customers, on having a particular marketing strategy delivered that achieved these kind of new leads or whatever. So whatever the area is that you're in, demonstrate that so that when people are coming onto that, they can see that. But then the next thing is that once you've actually got your optimized profile, you've got your shop window, you've got to try and attract people to come and have a look at it. I also want to talk about here as well. You mentioned about thinking of ageism issues. I chopped several years from my CV. So there's a couple of bits here that I think is really important to mention. We talk a lot about ageism, age bias. It's a real challenge. I think for a lot of candidates, still is a real challenge. It's becoming far more prevalent in the last couple of years than it has done previously, especially for older candidates. Once you reach a certain age, people just look at it and think, I don't want that, so I understand absolutely, LinkedIn user, why you are chopping away at that. So there's a couple of things I'd say here. First of all, yes, there are some people out there who will consider age. They shouldn't do. It is illegal, but it does take place. The second bit for it is that you should not be having a situation whereby you're trying to hide things and you're trying to hide who you are. You're trying to be a bit younger and you're trying to try. No, you are there to demonstrate your value and your skill. Does that mean that you need to talk about in great depth and have a large section in your CV about what you did 20 years ago? Obviously not. No, not because you're trying to hide your age, but because it's probably less relevant now. It might be interesting, but does the skill sets or the things that you were doing 20 years ago have a direct impact on what you're achieving now and what you can do in the future? And it's far less so, obviously. You're gonna, unless you've been doing it the entire time, the project that you did 25 years ago, well, it's probably got less relevance than the project that you've done just 5 months ago. Clearly that's going to be of more relevance, more interest to somebody. So yeah, you just don't need to go into as much detail from those things before and previously. You can do things if you really want to, in terms of when you went to university. You can just remove the dates from those and just put what it was and what you achieved for it. But and that's sort of up to you. But I think the most important way to combat ageism is not then to go on the defensive all the time. It's not to try and hide as much of what you can do. The way you combat ageism is showing your value and demonstrating your skill. Show people the value that you've got and the problems you solve online, on LinkedIn. You can do that by your content, by the engagement that you have with other people. That's how you can start to really demonstrate what you can do. If you are engaging with really good insight on commenting on other people's posts, your target audience, you immediately remove anything to do with ageism, because what you're ending up doing, if you are engaging with a potential hiring manager, somebody in the business, about a post that they've put up, you've put a really valuable insight there. They're going to look at who you are by immediately going onto your profile. They click on your profile, which of course is now fully optimized. You've got all the value that you've got there. People are going to look at that, see some of the content that you've produced, and then they'll start saying, this person can fulfill exactly the thing that I'm looking for, the problem that I've got, the job that I'm about to post, I haven't actually done it yet, the job that I want to get approval for, I haven't got it, or the job I have just posted. I'm either going to reach out directly to them, or I'm going to ask the recruiter in my company, go and speak to this person. I'd really like them for this role. Ageism has disappeared, and that's how you combat it. So it's a subtle difference, and I absolutely understand why people feel like they have to hide things, but don't. Be proud of what you've achieved, of who you are. It's irrelevant what age you are. You will be able to, if you're demonstrating it well, then absolutely. And if you're going to the right audience, it no longer becomes an issue. So that's what I would suggest on that side. So look, so what do we need to do? Now, often people, when we are creating content especially, and we've talked again about this over many of the weeks, some of the challenges that people have in developing content and what to talk about. Now, why that's interesting is because we've also talked about the type of posts that you can create and what you can actually put yourself out there. It's really easy now for anyone to create any post in seconds, in minutes, by putting something into ChatGPT or Claude or whichever one it is, and asking them to create it for you, cutting and pasting and putting it on. And yes, you could, with tons of volume, create lots and lots of posts, and there you are, you're out there and everything's great. But of course, LinkedIn doesn't really like that. And nor does anyone else, because I'm sure that you've probably looked at, when you've gone on to LinkedIn, people are complaining about, you can start to tell, we're all starting to tell, when something is just something AI slop, as they call it. We don't want that. Nobody wants to read it, because everyone can say, well, you know what, I can put something into ChatGPT and just read it for myself. I don't need you to just copy and paste it and put it there. What you've got to be is your authentic self. Now, absolutely, AI can help you, give you ideas, help you go to that next stage, but forget about the copy and paste functionality. do not do that. There's absolutely fine for you to ask AI to help you with those ideas, but take those ideas and rewrite that as you. And the most important thing, and the thing that AI can't replicate, is what you've got in your memories, your experiences, the challenges that you've had and how you've overcome them, both from a personal aspect, from a business aspect, a career aspect. There are plenty of different things that you can talk about, plenty of them. And it's really important to start doing that. Share as much as you are comfortable with. Everybody's slightly different in that. I'm not saying that you need to expose everything about your daily life. Of course not. We all have to have our own private lives. And even myself, who is on LinkedIn a lot, and I post most days, several times a day, I comment an awful lot, I engage an awful lot, but there are certain things I have that I'm not going to be giving away. So I just don't have anything with my kids. I don't mind if other people wish to do that, but personally I won't do that. So it's not something that I'm going to be showing or sharing too much on that kind of thing. But everything else from that is fairly open. So I'm happy to sort of separate between the two. Other people are different, and some want to do that. But what is important is to start sharing what it is that has made you who you are, because that's the sort of thing that is interesting to people. And the reason why we want to try and create this interest is because we're trying to drive traffic to look at your profile, your landing page, your shop window. That's the bit that we need to try and find there. That's how we need to try and get people onto that as well. Foxy, yeah, absolutely. Look, 100% about the rewrite. Even if you think it sounds amazing, I guarantee that if you do not rewrite it, it will sound like AI to a lot of people. Once you get used to AI's voice, you'll see it everywhere these days. It's so important to rewrite it in your voice. 100%. It really, really is. And it's so easy. We're all guilty of it, myself included, of thinking, oh, I've written this all out, and, you know, and AI is produced. Well, it looks pretty good. That's absolutely fine. And whenever I'm tempted to do that, I say, no, doesn't matter. I'm not going to just copy and paste this. I've got it there where it is. So what I tend to do is how I write things is that I will put that and input it into AI. I see what it is. I've asked it what it is. I might ask it to tweak it. But then what it does is it prompts what it is that I'm after and what I want to do. And then I then go straight onto the LinkedIn side of it and I write it out myself. So free. So I don't cut and paste. I won't do any of those types of things because it's important not to. Otherwise, exactly as Foxy said, what it ends up doing, we're all getting used to it now. We can all tell it's AI generated and what it is, and without going into the algorithm changes of LinkedIn, because that's always opening Pandora's box as soon as you mention that. But LinkedIn are aware of this. All of the social media platforms are aware of this, but LinkedIn in particular are aware of this. They're aware of the issue, and the algorithm is changing. They have updated it. They have done stuff to try and get rid of what they call themselves AI slop. They want authenticity. They want things that are clearly that. Don't ask me how the algorithm can work that out. People far cleverer than me have helped to create those algorithms to ensure that can do that. So it'll work it out. They're claiming that they're I think it was 96% accurate. It doesn't mean that 4% might not get through. So you might get unlucky. But don't do it to make it sound like that. And the easiest way to do it is just not cut and paste and just write it for yourself. I would also add that when you are doing it, you can again work it how you do it. If you work by creating posts every single day and doing it that way, it can be quite impactful. What I tend to do is I'll have a block of time. I start thinking about what I want to do. I then set that out and schedule it. You can do that all in LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a scheduled time. You can do it when you put the post. There's a little timer on there. Click that and you can set it to open up later on. I think it's really, really super good at doing that as well. The algorithm can't. AI detection is actually really, really poor. Well, I think they're claiming it's better. So I don't know, whatever LinkedIn will do, they're claiming it is. And what I have heard from a lot of people is that they are getting a lot less engagement from more AI generated posts. So it's clear that LinkedIn's drive and all their publicity and everything that they're pushing out is all about trying to get people to be more authentic in what they're putting, more insightful, which sort of makes sense because that's what we all want to find out about. We want people who are just talking about things that are interesting to us. It is about, and which we do know, it is about interest media rather than social media. So it's not about who you're connected with. It's about what they're actually interested in. What are you consuming? In that same way that when you're on TikTok and you're flicking through and you can you see that, you start seeing the same thing again and again. On Instagram, for instance, what I'm joking about at the moment, for the past week and a half, I ended up engaging with a lot of posts about beagles because I happen to have a beagle. So my wife had sent me this post about beagle rescue, and over in the States they'd rescued hundreds of beagles from some laboratories and testing areas and stuff like that. So I looked at that a lot. I swear to God, my entire Instagram stories, feed, everything is just beagle central. I mean, it's just gone crazy. So clearly it is working out and thinking, well, obviously Nigel's super interested in beagles. I sort of am, but not to that degree. But in the same way, LinkedIn is sort of doing the same thing. What it will start to do is exactly that. It'll start to say, you're interested in this subject because you've engaged with it. And then I'm going to start giving you more of the things that are similar to that. And why that's important then is because what you need to do is look at your target audience, the kind of people you're going to be working for, the competitors of the companies you've worked for in the past, the type of people who are most likely going to be either your work colleagues or your hiring managers, engaging with the kind of things that they're interested in, and then posting about similar subjects. Clearly, they're going to start seeing that more. And that's when your visibility starts to increase as well. Okay, we've got a few more comments here. LinkedIn user just drafted my first draft articles to help give my profile more visibility. 4 articles, 1 per week, just covering my work experience, observations, then evidence of projects, results, etc. Followed up by final one, hopefully selling my skills into the job market, getting some traction, still thinking about titles. Okay, look, I mean, super useful to do, and good that you're promoting that. I think absolutely it's important to do it. One piece of advice there for it: don't feel tempted, and I know this will sound super counterintuitive, don't feel tempted that you need to sell. You have to sell the fact that you're looking for a job. Don't push that. Everybody's doing that. It's the equivalent online of, I'm going to be sending direct messages to people just saying, I'm looking for a job, here's my CV. Because recruiters, hiring managers who are hiring, will be getting hundreds of those every single day. So you just get stuck in the crowd. It's just another way of doing exactly the same thing as an application only strategy. It's really important to keep in mind and focus what you're doing when you are branding yourself, when you're creating your content, writing your articles, etc. What you're writing about is demonstrating your value, showing your skill, and demonstrating the problems that you solve. And if you keep doing that, that will drive the traffic automatically to you. You do not need to be pushing, I'm looking for a job, I have a job, please help me find a job. You don't need to sell it. That's the difference between social selling and what we used to do, cold calling, years and years ago. That's more effective, because what you're trying to do is to get people to come onto your profile. And getting back to the open to work bit, that's what's also interesting, is because, why I'm an advocate for having open to opportunities, open to work on your profile, because if you fully optimized it and you're showing and demonstrating your insight and your value, people will go onto it because they've already seen that skill set in what you've engaged with them already. Go onto your profile, they can see it there, and subliminally they'll look at it and think, they see that it says open to work, open to opportunities. So they're immediately thinking, I've got somebody who can solve my problem, and they're going to be immediately available. So that's why I think it's good. So open to work banner on your profile is really good to work if your profile is fully optimized and you are engaging and creating content. If you're not doing those other things, complete waste of time. It's a complete waste of time, because all the people will do is they'll look at you and think, you're open to work, but I haven't got a clue what you can do or what you solve. You just look the same as everybody else. So there's a real big difference there in terms of doing that. I know it's not easy, absolutely. And I know that from myself that your instinct is, I need to be pushing, I need to be selling, I need to be telling people I'm looking for a job all the time. And there is an element of that where you can do that, especially when you're speaking directly to recruiters, to recruitment agencies. They're a really good part of it. I know we might have slightly dissed them earlier on in this session, but they absolutely are really good partners. If you can find a good recruiter who's going to help you, absolutely partner with them. They will be able to open doors for you like nobody's business. The really good ones out there are like gold. So make sure that you do that as well. Okay, so we've gone through a number of different things there, and I think it's really important to get some of that sort of content out there. Talk a little bit more about yourself. Talk about your journey. If you want to look at it, look and see what some of the things that I've put there. Have a look at different people who are quite active on LinkedIn. The kind of posts they do, it's quite often quite personal, but it's sort of mixture. So there's a little mixture of it all. I have a look at mine, look at some other people on there who are constantly producing good content on there. Some of it, may be working for you, some of it may not. But what it will do is give you a little bit of an idea of how to produce that kind of content that can really help. But don't be afraid to talk about you and your journey. What got you to where you are now here? That's a great way. If you haven't been posting, it's a great way to start it off, because in your own head you think of where that is. For me, I talk about a lot of where my journey was, and I think I even promoted it for this one. My first job before I did anything was working in a potato field for 99 pence an hour. Back-breaking work. There was no machines there. The farmer just came along, dug up the potatoes, and I was bent over double for the whole day, just pouring potatoes into sacks and then dumping them on the trailer. It was the worst job in the world. I hated it. Absolutely hated it. But that was something that has really helped me throughout my career of, one, I never want to work in a potato field ever again. I can still eat them, thankfully, but I don't want to ever do that. But I went from a process, I talk about from potatoes to prime ministers, of advising prime ministers, not ones that get booted at the drop of a hat, ones that actually didn't get booted. It was a fair time ago. But I went from being a potato picker to that. I've got interesting stories that you can tell, and all of you do as well. Don't be afraid to talk about it. So when you are coming away from here, I always talk about resets and challenges that you have at the end of this LinkedIn Live. So maybe what we should do is, the challenge that you can have is set your own relaunch, and your relaunch post will be how you started your journey. Talk about your journey. We all had strange jobs when we first started, whether it was the paper round somewhere or something like that. The 1800s were brutal. I know it was. This is pre-industrial revolution, Foxy. It's never easy to do all of that. What made it even worse was that it was terrible that there were obviously machines that could have done all of this. So I did question fairly quickly as I was doing this, and literally back-breaking work at 15 years old. I used to think, why am I doing this? Because there must be a machine that can do it. This is absolutely awful. Well, how can this be? But hey, that 99 pence an hour was spectacularly good. Agricultural minimum wage, exactly right. From potato price, wow, that's quite a step down. It is in this country, especially as we're going through prime ministers more than people actually eat potatoes. So they last about as long. Right, we're getting towards the end now. So look, make sure that everybody come through, get a fantastic post. If you want to, and it'll really work, tag me in the post, put it into there as well. We'll share it as well. I'm going to start reposting some of the best examples of your relaunch post. Get that, tag me into it. I'll make sure that we share that out there, and then maybe we could all start helping to share each other's, get some more visibility there, show and demonstrate. Make sure you comment, engage. Make sure you're really trying to help each other out. The whole point of all of these Get Hired is really for you, is to really help you to manage through the most difficult job search market there's been in a long, long time. There's a lot of new different ways of searching, and there's a lot of different challenges that everybody has as well. So feel free to make sure that you engage with each other and help each other out. If you're not already a member, come and join the Get Hired group as well. It is a circle community. There are lots of different information points on there, things that you can share. There's a Q&A section there as well, so feel free to join that. James will put into the comments as well, so that you're able to put that in. Come and join it, come and take part. We're obviously having the Get Hired Live running every single week. We will also be launching the Get Hired podcast that is going to be launching just after the summer as well. So that's an exciting a new piece that will happen, and it will be in addition to the Get Hired Live as well. Next week will be the last one we're going to do before the summer break. Believe it or not, I've actually going to go on holiday, and I'm not going to do it a Get Hired Live because I'll get into trouble if I do. But probably everyone deserves a break for a couple of weeks. So we're going to have a couple of weeks break, but we're going to have a special one next week because, and Foxy loves this, next week will be our 1-year anniversary. It is our birthday edition of the Get Hired Live. We've been going for over a year now, really helping loads of people to try and get hired, to try and get themselves seen, to try and get in front of people in a different way, develop themselves as well. Foxy is one of our longest serving members, almost, I think, if we remember rightly, almost exactly a year. But make sure you spend some time to come and see us next week for a really special edition. Thank you once again. It's great to see you all. Enjoy the summer as it is. I hope you're not too hot wherever you are. Stay cool, and we'll speak and see you next week. Cheers, everyone. Bye.